Good news. You just listened to the 100th episode of the Influential Personal Brand Podcast. Hooray!
You made it.
Woo! Pretty amazing to start a brand new podcast and get to 100 episodes. It's exciting for us. Hopefully you enjoyed it. So the interview was with Juliet Funt, one of our good friends. And like always, we're going to be breaking it down for you here, giving you the recap, kind of cliff notes, and just our takeaways of what it meant for us. So why don't you kick us off first, babe?
Yeah, I think my biggest thing was more on her personal brand, which is just the importance of having white space. I think all of us are plagued by the life of busyness and what's next and how much can I fit in versus providing a little time to think, process, brainstorm, strategize. And I love what she talked about. It's just like, how many of us have time in our calendars to think?
Just to think.
I mean, with nothing to do, no emails, no podcasts, no projects, no calls, no meetings, just white space. And I think that's amazing because so much of our creative time happens during just blank space, right? That's such a great term. And I think out of everything, I love that the most, of just making sure that every single day your calendar has white space to just think, to create, to imagine, to just be in what you're doing. And I think that that's hard. That actually takes quite a bit of discipline to do that versus, okay, great, I've got 5 minutes. How many emails can I check off? Or how many of this can I do? And I'm totally guilty of that. And just building in white space. I love that.
Yeah.
That was by far my biggest thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big takeaway of mine too. It is, the way she describes it, like it could even just be this interstitial sip of space. It doesn't have to be like a 30-minute or a 60-minute block necessarily. But I think
Wait, I have to stop you.
Interstitial.
Yeah, you knew I was going to ask that, didn't you? Right. So even when she was saying it, I was like, interstitial. This is a big word. This is a fancy word.
Fancy SAT word.
I need to figure out how to work this into conversation.
Interstitial. That's the word of the day here at Brand Builders Group. Interstitial.
Do you even know what it means?
Not really, but I'm kind of guessing. But
you're just taking it and being like, "Oh, I can repeat this."
Yeah, that will make me sound smart.
Continue.
Well, here was the thing, in terms of like for me, I think I almost feel like a slacker if I stop and pause and just like have nothing. I'm like, well,
like you're not being
productive. Like I'm not being productive, and the way that she described it was like, if you're busy every second of the day, you're not allowing yourself to catch the brilliant innovations. Like you're not allowing yourself to catch the big like ideas and the big creative moments. And so it's almost like having that white space. If you're a personal brand, it's essential. Like it's a part of the creative process. And so having that permission, I just thought that was powerful as well. So my second big takeaway was really about her lifestyle. And I thought it was interesting to me that, she's almost been 2 years. Her family have been gone from the United States for 2 years, living on the road, providing, a whole income, funding their team, and being able to do everything virtually. And, even if that's not your dream or my dream or our dream, like the idea of having that as an option in your life, like having your business set up in a way that it can be flexible and virtual like that and still be able to finance a great living. I thought that was really cool. And also a great example of her living out her uniqueness and actually doing the things that she talks about.
Yeah. It's so funny because I was listening to this podcast, and for like a whole minute, I was like, oh, that sounds so good. And then I remembered that my kids are 1 and 3. And then I had hot flashes. I was like, oh God, oh no, no one have this idea.
Panic attack.
Yeah.
Well, her kids are older, like, for sure.
Maybe when they're older. Yeah. But it was like one of those moments I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And then I was like, oh,
not awesome.
Not for 1 and 3 year olds. I love that too. And I think that's the power of where we kind of are in today's world, and creating a business that allows you to do whatever you want to do. So even if it's not traveling, just the concept of creating a business that fits your lifestyle. My second one, I thought was just a very kind of like high level takeaway, but I loved how she talked about how she was so far along. She is so far along in her career and is just now launching her first book. And
Mm,
that people just assumed she had one because she is a successful speaker and has this business. And oh, of course, you have a book. And I just think that's really hopeful and introspective for so many things of you can be so established as a personal brand without a book. You can also be super established with one,
sure.
but you don't have to have one to make your mark. And I just think that's really great for all of you who are like, oh
That's
my
good.
gosh, the thought of doing that just seems daunting. Well, don't do it. There are so many other ways. Like she has been incredibly successful up until now, and now is just doing the book. So I thought that was really
Yeah, again, that's
a good takeaway.
an interesting permission that it's like there's multiple ways to do this. Like there's not just one way to be successful as a personal brand, as a
Mm-hmm,
speaker, as a whatever you influencer, whatever you want to
mm-hmm,
call it.
totally.
So I like that. The other thing that I actually liked was one of my takeaways, which is kind of similar to this, um, which is sort of different than what we preach a little bit at Brand Builders Group. Not
Oh, I know
really,
exactly what you're
but
gonna say.
she said you have
Try all the things.
permission to be iterative and speak on lots of things as a way of finding it, right? And so that's for those of you that if you've been to our kind of our flagship first event, it's called Finding Your Brand DNA or Strategy Day. That is where we help people find their uniqueness and figure out like what were you uniquely designed to deliver. Which I think is still powerful, but I also think what she's saying is powerful, that, you know, absent that kind of clarity, you can learn by trying and by testing some things out. And
Yeah.
hold on. I know you're like dying to like get in here, but, and even I'm not so sure that I love, or like I personally kind of follow the idea of speak about lots of things at one time, but I do like the idea of being iterative and going, hey, I'm going to do something and I'm going to be great on that. And then I'm going to reinvent it. And then I'm going to reinvent it. And then so I really liked the iterative idea that even if you're going after your uniqueness, you don't have to sign a stone tablet that says, this is what I'm going to talk about the rest of my life, which we're a great example of that. We are in a
Yeah,
new
and I
season.
think that because you kind of started with, um, this is contrary a little bit to what we say, but it's really not. Because she said it's like speak on many things, but one at a
One at a
time.
time.
One at a time. And I think that's the key. It's like you cannot be a wellness and nutrition speaker and a leadership speaker and a sales speaker and an economist at the same time.
No, not very
That just
good.
makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's like maybe you could speak on fitness and wellness and nutrition, but those are all like lumped
Related.
together.
Yeah.
But I just think now over time, maybe you start as this and then it evolves into this and then into this. And that's what I think you were saying. And what she came around to saying too, wasn't like you're speaking on body image and marketing at the same time. That's not what happened. It evolved into that and then into another thing. And I think that's a natural process of just finding your niche and then reinventing. I think that's all really natural.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to say
Well, and
that.
another thing about that you made me think of is just like, you know, Brand Builders Group, we don't teach people to only talk about one thing. We teach people to have a very clear message, and that message can be applied to multiple different
Mhm.
things and angles. So anyways, but again, that was kind of a different perspective. So what was your third takeaway?
Yeah, I think my third takeaway was just the general conversation of how you grow into your personal brand. I just think that so for so many people, you just have to get started, right? And it's such a great reminder that many times your first speaking engagement and your first 100 sometimes will be free, but that doesn't mean you don't do it. And hers, she was doing this a lot until she got paid $750. Woo! Right? Big paycheck, right? But it's like, this is all a part of the journey. It's all a part of the mission. And she's been doing this for a very long time and is just now doing her book. And I loved what she said about that component, which is if she had written this 5, 10 years ago, it wouldn't be the book that it deserved to be. That you needed to wait until this moment for her. And I think that's so important for us all to like not feel pressured by what everyone else is doing. And if we can just like stop the comparison game and go, well, I have to have a book, or I'm gonna, no, you don't. You do as soon as you feel called to, and not until. And I think just like listening to your own internal guide on that is so important, because there is no secret recipe for so many of us. It's just, what do you want to do? And do it at the right time and at the right pace. And I just thought that was a good reminder of just the growth pattern of how she started her personal brand and her career.
I love that. And I know that she wouldn't mind me saying this roughly, but the other thing is she got a very the largest book advance I know of of like a first time author, because
She's established.
She did it right, and she built it, and she waited until she felt like now was the time, and now she has a huge platform. And so there you have it. There's multiple ways to do this. You can figure it out. It can be done. Don't compare yourself to what other people are doing.
Yeah, I love this all the time about, it's like, don't compare your step 1 to someone else's step 1,000. And it's so easy to do. And maybe you thinking, oh, first time author, right? But she is not a newbie.
Yeah,
she is not a beginner.
So
I think those are all in context of like, oh, first time. Like, okay, well, that's very broad in context of like first time author, but that does not mean newbie. Right. So I just think all those things are in
Michelle
context.
Obama was a first time author too, I think. So
all in context. All in context. So I think, again, just don't compare your step 1 to someone else's step 1,000.
And hopefully you'll stay here as a source of encouragement and education. We're so excited. Hey, thank you for all the reviews. I was checking out the reviews. Thanks for sticking with us. 100 episodes. We're just getting started. We've got so many great people for you to hear from, but we're glad you're here. We want to follow you and continue encouraging you on your journey. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.